Hi, sports fans. Today I'm going to take a look at a video from the BBC. It's the one in which you got a roundtable discussion. They've got a bunch of people together who are supposed to critique, or at least debate, actually, I guess, to be fair. John Cleese, a few years ago, he was on Australian TV, and he said that something to the effect that London was no longer an English city. Somebody must have dredged this up. They must have been short on, fake hate crimes or some phony scandal regarding Donald Trump. And they needed some fodder for the to feed the rage machine. Anyway, the droids, and so they came up with something. Like I say, good old John Cleese. They're tossing him under the bus, throwing him to the wolves, and just generally, being jerks about him now that he's safely living outside of the UK. Anyway, so what's interesting about this, actually, I suppose, is the fact they're going after John Cleese with a totally phony argument when they start out. B, they actually have people on the part of the roundtable who are actually going to defend Cleese and do it well. That's a surprise. That was cool. It is cool. And the other thing is that they have this thing where they unperson John Cleese, as you'll see. It's kind of interesting. Anyway, I don't know if it's the beginning of the end or the end of the beginning, whatever. Okay, let's check it out. Good morning, dude.
What was your objection to it, Shola? Obviously, lots of people saying, it was racist, even though he didn't say London is no longer white. When he said London is no longer English, people are reading into that he meant it's not white enough.
All right.
Oh my God! What should the bastard say? Let's check it out. I'm sure it was extremely egregious.
That you did had a great eye for British culture. What do you make of British culture now, particularly after the riots that we've seen?
I'm not sure what's going on in Britain. Or let me say this: I don't know what's going on in London, because London is no longer an English city, and that's how they got the Olympics. I mean, they said we're the most cosmopolitan city on earth, but it doesn't feel English. I had a Californian friend come over 2 months ago, walk down the King's Road, and said to me, "Well, where are all the English people?" And I mean, I love having different cultures around, but...
One more time.
I mean, I love having different cultures around, but... And I mean, I love having different cultures around, but when the parent culture kind of dissipates, the parent culture kind of dissipates cultures around, but when the parent culture kind of dissipates, you...
That's about it. Pretty harmless. But again, you got to feed the rage machine, otherwise the droids get hungry, and there might, there might be an insurrection. They might get mad at something that's really worthwhile, and worth getting mad about. Anyway, back to the rage machine. Here we go.
Let me first of all start by saying that with age should come wisdom, but clearly with John Cleese, it passed him by. The bottom line...
That was a funny one. Tickled my funny bone, didn't you? Actually, it's not what he's doing. I think he's just kind of nursemaiding her into the art of being funny. I guess he presumes that she doesn't have timing, doesn't know how to tell a joke, and he's got to kind of. The host is East Indian, probably Gujarati, and he presumes that she, who I don't know where she's, maybe Nigerian, but she's born in the UK. She's English. She's British. She'll make that argument. And I agree with her. She is English. She's British. But dude presumes she's too dumb to be funny, so he has to toss out this kind of fake chortling. It's pathetic. I mean, like what? Like there's some shortage of black comedians. Like black people can't be funny. Like Dave Chappelle. Well, I don't know how funny he is. Doesn't work for me. But Charlie Rich, Buddy Rich, who's the other guy? Frank Rich? I always forget people's names. Damn it. Oh my God, I gotta look this up. Yeah, I had to look it up. I'm such an idiot. Whenever I do these videos, I can't remember the names of anything. All this pressure in front of the crowd, on the stage. There is no crowd. There is no stage. But part of my brain believes there is one. So, Eddie Murphy? There we go. That's a real comedian. And Chris Rock. So there's all kinds of funny black people, not because they're black, but because they're funny. Anyway,
line is this: referring to UK cities or London as non-English is a key point here. Britishness is not determined by the color of our skin.
Right, not determined by the color of our skin.
got the Olympics. I mean, they said we're the most cosmopolitan city on earth, but it doesn't feel English. I had a Californian friend come over 2 months ago, walk down the King's Road and said to me, well, where are all the English people? And I mean, I love having different cultures around, but when the parent culture kind of dissipates.
Yep, no mention of race whatsoever. In fact, he goes out of his way to make it not an issue of race. But she'll put the kibosh on an argument in a second anyway, as you'll see. Her first attempt at a joke wasn't funny, but her second inadvertent joke is actually quite amusing.
I am British. I'm not less British than John Cleese because I'm black. The Britishness that we experience.
What the hell is that? Is that like the SETI? The abominable snowman? Bigfoot? Loch Ness Monster. That's actually John Cleese. How can you believe this nonsense? It's just right out of the Stalinist playbook. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, this is just absolutely crazy. I mean, George Orwell, made a big issue out of this. But basically, this is kind of like the Stalinist, Soviet Party, as they say here in Wikipedia, erasing people from photographs after their death. So, for example, you have here a dude, right? And then, boink, gone. What? Now, if you look closely at this, actually, I think this guy was photoshopped in the first place, maybe. Because look at this. What is this with the water? These kind of arcs. Anyway, however it was done, maybe it was photoshopped in the first place, so to speak. They didn't have Photoshop at the time, but you get the idea. But kabloom! When he fell out of favor with the brutal, evil dictator here. That was it. All she wrote. Here's another example here. Did cosmonauts disappear from history?
Now we do know that they did erase cosmonauts out from the history books.
Excellent.
Look at this picture. Look at the tall gentleman in the back row. Whoops, where did he go? Now you see him, now you don't. And if you put these two pictures in Photoshop and overlay them on top of each other, you can tell they are the same picture. Here's one more. Notice the gentleman sitting in the back row on the right-hand side of the screen up there. Bloop, he's gone.
Sweet. Where's John Cleese? Oh, he's gone. Of course, they took out the whole freaking frame. I mean, what is this? This is so crazy. The unpersoning of John Cleese. Good job, guys.
Is it's not segregation. It's all about integration. It's not exclusion. It's about inclusion. And what is it about Britishness that is not represented in any of our UK cities? Is it our government institutions? Is it our values? Is it our love of football? Is it the food or the royal family? All of that is celebrated. So how are we not English? So
he's not referring to you, dummy. That's the whole point. You are British or you are English. That's fine if you love football and fish and chips and all the rest of it. That is entirely English. His problem is not with you, dummy.
by referring to it as not English, you have to ask him, what do you mean by not English?
Well, he does go on to clarify, and just to
Yeah, exactly. He's very clear what he meant by non-English.
say at the end of it, he was making a point about Brexit, wasn't he? Because he's a Brexiteer, and at the end of it, he said it's also worth noting that London was one of the most Remain places, i.e.
But what he's suggesting is not a very...
So in other words, the whole thing's just a put-up job. The BBC just wants something to rant and rave and scream about. They don't believe that Cleese is racist either.
English thing to do.
Well, he went on to say, didn't he? He went against some of the criticism, and he said actually it's not about racism, it's about culturalism, and he said that it's not as polite as it was, humorous, it's not as friendly as it was. Those sorts of things.
That
is what
is
he was
such
saying.
nonsense. This is a man.
Yeah, right. Cities are just as friendly and polite as rural areas. No, they're not. And of course, the more cosmopolitan they become, the less friendly and the less what do you call it? Well, less polite. Whatever people become. It's just like New York polite. I mean, the pace of life picks up. People are just like go go go. The whole idea of a New York minute. People are impatient. People don't know each other. Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I shut that off by accident, but anyway, I mean, the thing is, people just you get these kind of neighborhoods, Polish neighborhoods, Italian neighborhoods, Irish neighborhoods, or whatever kind of thing, and then people just have these kind of, you have these pockets of people they go to different churches, they have different values, eat different food. I mean, it's cool. I mean, if you want to, have, genuine, what do you call it, ethnic food from Ireland. Maybe not, but Italian or maybe Polish, ragu or goulash or whatever. I mean, you can get this in these places. But I mean, at the same time, people just develop, especially guys, develop rivalries. We're Irish or we're Polish or we're Italian or whatever else, and people just don't tend to mix as smoothly as they would otherwise. And they tend to rib each other, have various ethnic jokes and all the rest of it. It's not even racist. It's just tribal. Anyway. So people simpletons just blame everything on race. But here she's going to make a serious doozy of a flub here.
And who left the UK because it's full of foreigners and moved to a foreign country.
Right. She doesn't see the irony in what she just said. In other words, she's saying that John Cleese, basically is a racist, doesn't like foreigners, and that's why he moved overseas to a foreign country full of foreigners. Does that make any sense, lady? If he's a racist, why does he move to a foreign country if he's full of black people? Because he moved to the Caribbean, and he says the people are wonderful. He says they're very British. I saw him saying that in another interview. Anyway, all right.
To become an immigrant, please, let's not take him seriously.
What's your view?
Well, that particular point is a bit difficult to defend, I agree. But I think in terms of the
What? We speak a different language, but this guy's really good, actually.
racism issue, I don't see how this has anything to do with race. Look at the England football teams full of black players. No one would question their Englishness, right? They're English. It's not about race. What he's talking about, I think, is that, look at London. 42% of people who live in London are, like me, foreign-born, right? So
Right, that's what he's talking about, being foreign-born. Because if you are, you're not gonna have English ways and means, and English notions of politeness, English notions of comedy, or humor, of physical body distance, of just manners, how you park, how you drive, how you dress, blah 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 blah. Hit the wrong button again.
So there's a very significant immigrant population in London. Obviously, if you have half of a city, essentially, that are people who are first-generation immigrants, that is going to make it less of the local culture.
No,
it's just a fact of life, isn't it?
No, the fact of that is, and you're absolutely right, but the fact of that is that the
No, but you're absolutely right. Okay.
city has changed. That's fine. It's
For
changed.
hundreds
But
of
to
years.
say it's become...
That's fine, it's changed, but to say it's not the same, that's racist. It's changed, but it's still the same. Admit it. Otherwise, you're a racist, damn it.
less English is ridiculous. Either it's...
Right, it's changed, but you can't say it's less English. It's just different, but still the same, in a different way. Right. Hit the wrong button again.
It's a stupid comment.
So let me
or
give you
it's
an
a racist
example.
comment.
Well, no, it's not. Well,
It's not just
first of all, it's nothing to
racist.
do with race. But look at this. Look at it like this: if 50%
Yep, nothing to do with race.
of the people who lived in London were Scottish, would we be okay to say that it's less English than it
And watch dude's reaction.
was when it was 10%?
We would say it
Would
is
that be
British.
okay? Well, no, but answer the question: would it be okay or not?
Would it be okay... I'm trying to get my head around that.
If 50%,
Let me get my head around it. Wasn't ready for that question. Because he's like a lawyer. Maybe he's even a barrister or something like that. You're not supposed to ask a question to which you don't already know the answer. Otherwise, it's going to catch you off guard. You're going to be surprised, and you can maybe, you're going to lose the case. So here you have the host. He's got the same thing. Say that again so I get my head around it. Yeah, it's very difficult. What if it was, London was replaced with Scotsman? Would it still be, the same city? Would it still be English? Come on. Well, that's different.
of the people who lived in London were Scottish.
Yes.
Would it be okay to say that London has become less English than it was when 10% of the people who lived in London were Scottish?
Well, if they were Scottish, yeah.
Right, so what's the difference?
But
There's no difference. He's talking about immigrants.
But that's what we want to talk about. We want to have a nice big kerfuffle and pretend everything's about race and get everybody all riled up, and that'll bring in the ratings. You can't just diffuse a situation like that. What the hell? We didn't bring you on here for that.
Talking about immigrants.
But,
So it's nothing to do with race.
Do you not consider yourself as English?
No.
Why is that?
Because I'm British.
I'm
a British.
Right. Right. He's British. He's part of the greater Great Britain, you know, kind of thing. But he's not English per se. Right. Because
when you go to Scotland, if you go to Scotland, so where have you come from? What do you say?
Well, I'd say I live in London. I'm originally from Russia.
But why can't you say I'm from England?
Because I'm not from England.
But you are.
No, I'm not. I wasn't born here. I didn't grow up here. I came here when I was
When you're in
13.
Scotland and you're on the road and there's an arrow pointed towards England, do you not go that direction because that's where you're from, England? So why
I'm
can't
not
you
from England. I wasn't born here. I didn't grow up here.
But you just said are you from London?
No.
But where are you?
So I live in London. Right. I live just outside of London, in fact. Right. But I'm originally. It's complicated.
Right.
People can have.
You're making it complicated.
No. You're making it complicated. Let me just. Let me just make this one point. Let me make this one point.
I am British. I was born here. So if he does not self-identify,
yeah, you're British because you're born there, and if you're from London and you're English, fine. Nobody's got a problem with that. Neither does John Cleese. That's not his issue.
as British. You're not.
No,
actually,
I'm British, but I'm not English.
But
That's
he
the difference.
is
Let's
not
just bring in Monty
identified.
here. What do you make of it? Because you've got an interesting view on. This is a nostalgic tweet from John Cleese and not an inherently racist one.
Yeah, I don't think it's a racist tweet. I think he's talking about his childhood days, you know, in the 40s, 30s, 40s, 60s, you know.
Yeah,
40s, 50s.
when he was younger, yeah.
Yeah, younger days, how England was and how England has changed.
Who? What?
Changed to now.
But he doesn't like the change.
But hang on, he hasn't said changed.
Who's that? Is that John Cleese or is it the Pillsbury Doughboy? I can't tell.
But it's a fact, isn't
I'm
it?
sorry.
Yeah, but that's fine.
Can we go back
But it hasn't become
hundreds of
less
years?
English.
Yeah, it has.
Can we please
It
go back
absolutely
hundreds
has.
of years?
Yep, of course it's become less English. If it was full of Scotsmen, it'd be less English. If it was full of Irishmen, it'd be less English. If it was full of Welshmen, it'd be less English. Why is this complicated?
I don't know, the Vikings coming.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
That's true. It did all change. That's true. It became a different place, and there's always been immigrants. It's absolutely correct. Right. And when the Vikings came in, it wasn't English. I guess it wasn't called England. Right, because England is a name which I don't know when did it come about. I don't know, probably it's been no longer than 1,000 years old or something like that. The Vikings were here first. Were attacking when? In, I don't know, the 800s, 900s.
Shipping black people during the slave trade. I don't know. During the time.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of white people shipped out in the slave trade too. So like 100,000 Brits or Englishmen, Irishmen, etc. were kidnapped by Muslim corsairs and shipped off to North Africa and eventually to the slave markets in the Middle East.
British Empire colonized other countries.
Yeah, so did every other empire. Right? There were empires in Nigeria too, or wherever you're from, and they all colonized people too. Thanks very much. That's how you form empires. You don't get an empire without colonization, my dear.
Has not been pure English white skin.
But no,
It's not about pure English white skin.
talking about being white.
And anyway, and white skin is just a matter of just growing up in a place where you don't have a lot of sunlight. It's just a suntan, my dear.
You've made it about race.
No.
He didn't say anything.
Can I just say,
he didn't say anything about race.
Let me just hang on.
He did not say he was talking about English.
Let me say exactly what he said in his second tweet. So he made this first one, and then lots and lots and lots of people went against him. And then he said, "I suspect I should apologise for my affection for the Englishness of my upbringing, but in some ways, I found it calmer, more polite, more humorous, less tabloid, and less money-oriented than the one that is replacing it." Now the thing is, if I'm not a Londoner. I'm from the Northwest. But people will say, all the money that has driven up prices in London, that means people can't live in London anymore, even if they want to, is because there's Russian money here, there's Arab money here, it's the foreign...
Russian money. Oh my God. That's...
investment in London.
On behalf of all Russians, I'm deeply offended by this.
Exactly.
Deeply offended.
No, but what I'm saying is...
He's targeting the immigrants. Even with his explanation, he's targeting people. He's saying...
Well, yes, if it was Scottish, you would be targeting Scottish people. Why is this complicated?
saying that you are not English. All of us have been here way longer before Jonathan.
No, it's not true. He just told you he was born in Russia.
Of course, he's talking about English people.
But you could make those
talking about people. He's not talking about values. He's not talking about culture. He's talking about people, and that means it's got racist connotations.
Didn't say anything about
bigoted. People. Of course, he did.
She said that the city has become less English.
Other descriptions.
I just think
it's not as polite. I'm sorry. So immigrants are not polite. What the heck?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the meaning of that?
I think you could probably say it's about lots of cosmopolitan cities in Britain and across the world. That's the only thing. I don't know why.
So you're making my point for me. Is we have lots of immigrants. So he's not racist, just a very naughty boy.
Well, that's very good.
Ta-da. Anyway, so I thought that might be kind of interesting. It worked out well. It was a lot less kind of negative and pointless. It wasn't just some kind of. It started out as this kind of rabble-rousing bit, but anyway, it was sewn up by that guy who is a force for righteousness. Anyway, all right, it's my first attempt at trying to do a live bit, and wow, that was a struggle, but I'll get better at it. Anyway, see you later.